Hello and welcome along to the Sports Express Show. We're going to have a chat about a conversation now that is of global interest to the Black Lives Matter movement. And it's been happening in South Africa as well. We've been talking about it in the past 2 weeks. It all started with, of course, Ulungingiti coming through to put out a comment, not a statement, a comment in passing to talk about having the conversation within the team, the Proteas set up, and getting the conversation going in South African cricket. Subsequently, he got backlash for that from former players coming out to condemn the fact that he's bringing his own beliefs into the Proteas setup, and he also got support from former players and current players who were supporting the Black Lives Matter movement and endorsing it to be a conversation that we are having in South African cricket right now. So, brother man, just your reaction firstly to the backlash that Ulungingiti got from former players, namely Pat Simcox and Boeta de Pienaar, coming through and basically shunning the movement of Black Lives Matter.
Look, my reaction to their backlash is one of anger. But I would like to highlight the fact that Ulungingiti made a comment in passing. It
was in an interview, and he was asked about it, and then he gave an answer. Simple as that.
So it wasn't an official statement. It was just.
He wasn't forcing anyone.
And he's not saying, if we don't address this as a team, I'm not going to play for the team. There were no ultimatums. He was just sharing his view. He just answered a question in Obita Dictum in passing, and that's it. Now, for the backlash to come like this, I mean, really, it's unnecessary. It angers me. It does not shock me because, as you and I know, Los Blancos, there are undercover racists in this country littered everywhere. So it didn't shock me. It just angered me because they tried to downplay the objective of the movement, and they shunned Ulungingiti unnecessarily. It wasn't the space for them to do that at all. I mean, these guys are undercover racists. Why couldn't they just shut the hell up and carry on with what they're doing?
I mean, it's fighting for one cause. We're not saying don't fight for whatever cause that you believe in, but it's fighting for one cause while trying to dim the other. And the Black Lives Matter conversation now is of global interest. It is important, and it's not like it's out of context because it is happening in South African cricket and in South African sport. It's systemic racism
in general, and not even in sport. I mean, in South Africa, just standard. I mean, it's systemic racism that we are trying to tackle, and for them to fight their own cause, okay, all good and well, but don't do it to mock. That's what they were doing. They did it to mock what is happening right now, which then in turn shows us their thinking, shows us their true colors. And for me, I think the backlash that they received for that, these undercover racists, I think was justified, but I'm not quite yet satisfied until the proper repercussions are exercised on these guys.
Well, we saw obviously 30 players or so coming out in support of Ulungingiti, and I think the good part of the story is the fact that it actually allowed former players to come out and share their stories because they've been quiet for years. And I don't think if this platform wasn't opened up or this conversation wasn't opened up, I don't think they would have come out and actually shared their stories. So the likes of Ashwell Prince, the likes of Alvaro Peterson, and the most touching one for me was the story of Umakaya Ntini, of course, with the interview that he had with the SABC, basically coming through and talking about how he felt socially isolated was in the Proteas setup. So that was something that was quite sad for me to hear because it was such a revered Proteas team that he played for one of the best years in terms of South African cricket, and now I can't really look at that team in the same way after hearing those stories, and to actually experience that as a South African legend. It's not something, I mean, we know the problems are there, they exist, but even at the highest level in sports, they are still there.
It's something that you never associate with him for some reason. He is a South African
He's
legend.
a revered man, he's such a loved man within the country.
Exactly. So for him to reveal such things, it really, like you said, for me it left a bad taste on that team setup. And it's not only his career spanned over a decade. So the whole setup has to be scrutinized, We're not saying it lasted for a decade, obviously not, but the very fact that he experienced that, being at the highest level, was absolutely shocking, and it was heart-wrenching, man. I don't want to lie to you. And I've always seen it on the grassroots going up, where you get a lot of, like, I'll refer to rugby, for example, Coca-Cola Craven Week. You see a lot of black lighties who play good rugby, or Coca-Cola Craven Week as it's formerly known. You get lots of black players, but when you get to the actual unions or franchises, the Sharks and the Western Province, and the Sharks are the only ones that are representing, to be honest with you. But the other franchises, you don't get as many as you would get within the Craven Week. So the system chucks them out. So for Untini to reveal this actually brought the light onto the top as well. Rugby, as we all know, has been plagued with racism for years now, and I do hope the fact that Ulungingidi touched on this, that it will open up a platform for them as well to say, hey guys, this is happening still, and this is the situation, because these guys need to be exposed. These guys need to be exposed. It can't be like, they can't just be quiet and be left alone and to make their money while exploiting black youth. I mean, if you look at these cats, they always set up these youth centers. I mean, it's all for tax breaks, it's all for money purposes, but for them, they're trying to do it to make it seem like they're not racist. Guys, we are not fools. So I want them, we need them to be exposed. And I think this platform, not even a platform, guys. I mean, it's just him saying a comment in passing. But
well, it's opened up a conversation, one that is global.
That answer has opened up a gate for people to express themselves and hopefully bring down systemic racism in South Africa. It's a long road. Don't get me wrong, but it's a road that needs to be traveled.
And as you're saying, we'd love to see other players from other sports also coming up with their stories. Because in rugby, we've seen the likes of Thando Manana coming up, and he's been an advocate for transformation in rugby, and we've heard stories from his side, but there's many other players. Who I'm sure also have their own stories to share as far as the racism or the trouble they've experienced.
But I mean, if you flip it on, like, this is how crippling this thing is. You probably find that current players will not come out because they're afraid to lose their places. I mean, when I was playing club rugby, I would be there, practice every single time there was practice, but yet somebody who hasn't been there for like a month would rock up for games. Not rock up for practice, but rock up for games and start ahead of me. So these are the little, not little, because they have a big impact. These are the things that actually happen that nobody talks about. So if the current guys come out and talk about it, I believe they have a fear that they'll be chucked out. And I do believe that they should stand up against it to bring down the system. Simple as that.
What have you made about the reaction from CSA in terms of how they've reacted to all of this? Obviously, they came out with a statement in support of Ulungingidi. They came out and publicly saying that. And you also saw making Reza Hendricks the captain for the 3T cricket. Just your reaction to that. And for me personally, it was all a PR stunt or marketing, whatever. So what do you think about this?
It's exactly the same. It's marketing. I mean, they just saw a popular movement that would fill up their pockets, and they thought, listen, let's get in on this pie. I don't think it's genuine. I hope I'm wrong. Please, this is one of the times where I wish I am wrong, and that they actually show it in action. Making Reza Hendricks captain does not change anything, and in fact it puts even more, I don't want to use the word doubt, but it's like, okay, are you captain?
Because they even came out and said that they are doing it to show that they are trying to change things. So to even come out and say that, for me, that's a bit of it really doesn't sit well with me, because now you are literally telling us why you are doing it.
My question is, are there no black representatives in CSA?
I mean, we do have them,
In terms of who are high in the rankings to say,
we have a suspended CEO who's black.
That's the thing. So we might have black fillers there. But do they really have an impact? Because anybody who's black who would have heard this would be like, "Aye, gents, come on, that's just being fake." So for me, it's just them being two-faced or using a marketing strategy to try and appease people. But it's them just trying to fill up their pockets at the end of the day. It's all a marketing scheme, guys. But like I said, I do refer back to this. I hope and wish I am wrong.
We are wrong. I hope we're all wrong, because we just want to see the practicality behind it. We want to see the changes happening on the ground. Basically, for me, I'm tired of us talking about this. I'm tired of us making t-shirts. We don't want to see any t-shirts. We don't want to see, we just want to see actual change happening from the grassroots, equal opportunities for all players, are talented and who are deserving of playing the sport.
And I also want the players that have been chucked out the system to say, hey, listen, I was the best performer. There are many lighties, guys.
Yeah.
There are many lighties who are brilliant going up in the youth setup. Then they got chucked out. There are many players that can come and testify to this. And I think their word will help weaken the systemic racism. I mean, this is something that we all face. You don't have to have played sport to experience systemic racism.
Yeah.
You as a black person experience systemic racism
Workplaces.
every single day, wherever you go. So, and even worse for our black sisters in this country. So, you know what we're talking about. You know what these players are going through. In fact, even more so. So we need to break this down. And if this opens up a platform for normal people who are not athletes to talk about it and to actually bring it down, more power for that simple answer to that simple question that was asked to Ulungingit.
Yeah, conversation will not stop here, of course.
Yeah.
It can't stop here. We can't stop talking about it and actually enforcing the conversation on the relevant people and the gatekeepers in sports as a whole, because it's not only a cricket problem, just all sports in South Africa, and hopefully things will be changing sooner.
Soon.
Yeah,
Guys,
I'm going to leave it here for now.
Guys, thank you again for tuning in. I know it's a somber note, but something that we need to tackle as a nation and as the world.
Yeah.
And thank you again for tuning in. Catch us again next time. Peace out.